हेलो दोस्तों, स्वागत है आप सभी का हमारे चैनल इग्नो सेंटर पर। तो दोस्तों, आज का जो टॉपिक रहेगा वो आपका लुक बैक इन एंगर का जो समरी है वो रहेगा, और इस पर हम कैरेक्टर डिस्कस करेंगे। तो आज का कुल मिलाकर जो टॉपिक रहेगा वो आपका समरी और कैरेक्टर के विषय में रहेगा। तो दोस्तों, लुक बैक इन एंगर का जो समरी है उसका नोट्स हम अभी प्रोवाइड करने जा रहे हैं आप सभी को। तो हम लाइन बाय लाइन रीड करेंगे। आप इसको वीडियो को पॉज करके लिख सकते हैं, समरी और कैरेक्टर दोनों। तो स्टार्ट करते हैं। लुक बैक इन एंगर बिगिन in the attic flat apartment of Jimmy Potter and Alison Potter. The setting is mid 1950s small town England. Jimmy and Alison share the apartment with Cliff Lewis, a young working class man who is best friend with Jimmy. Cliff and Jimmy both come from a working class background, though Jimmy has had more education than Cliff. They are in business together, running a sweet stall. Allison's come from a more prominent family, and it is clear from the beginning that Jimmy resents this fact. The first act opened on a Sunday in April. Jimmy and Cliff are reading the Sunday paper while Allison is ironing in a corner of the room. Jimmy is a hot-tempered young man, and he begins to try and provoke both Clips and Allison. He is antagonistic towards Cliff's working class background and make fun of him for his low intelligence. Cliff is good natured and takes the antagonism. Jimmy attempts to provoke his wife Allison by making fun of her family and her well-heeled life before she married him. Jimmy also seemed to display a nostalgia for England's powerful past. He notes that the world has entered a dreary American age, a fact he begrudgingly accepts. Allison tries of Jimmy rants and begs for peace. This makes Jimmy more favored in his insults. Cliff attempts to keep peace between the two, and this led to a playful scuffle between the two. The wrestling ends up running into Allison, causing her to fall down. Jimmy is sorry for the incident, but Allison makes him leave the room. After Jimmy leaves, Allison confides to Cliff that she is pregnant with Jimmy's child, though she has not yet told Jimmy. Cliff advises her to tell him, but when Cliff goes out and Jimmy re-enters the room, the two instead fall into an intimate game. Jimmy impersonates a stuffed bear and Allison impersonates a toy squirrel. Cliff returns to tell Allison that her old friend Helena Charles has called her on the phone. Allison leaves to take the call and returns with the news that Helena is coming to stay for a visit. Jimmy does not like Helena and goes into a rage in which he wishes that Allison would suffer in order to know what it means to be a real person. He curses her and wishes that she could have a child only to watch it die. 2 weeks later, Helena has arrived and Allison discusses her relationship with Jimmy. She tells of how they met and how in the younger days they used to cherish parties with their friends Hunk Tanner. Jimmy maintained an affection for Hug's mother, though his relationship with Hug was strained when Hug left to travel the world and Jimmy stayed to be with Allison. Jimmy seems to regret that he could not leave, but he is also angry at Hug for abandoning his mother. Helena inquires about Alison's affectionate relationship with Clift, and Alison tells her that they are strictly friends. Clift and Jimmy return to the flat, and Helena tells them that she and Alison are leaving for church. Jimmy goes into an anti-religious rant and ends up insulting Allison's family once again. Helena becomes angry and Jimmy dares her to slap on the face, warning her that he will slap her back. He tells her of how he watched his father die as a young man. His father had been injured fighting in the Spanish Civil War and had returned to England only to die shortly after. Alison and Helena begin to leave for church and Jimmy feels betrayed by his wife. A phone call comes in for Jimmy and he leaves the room. Helena tells Alison that she has called Alison's father to come get her and take her away from this abusive home. Alison relents and says that she will go when her father picks her up the next day. When Jimmy returns, he tells Alison that Mrs. Tanner, her mother, had become sick and is going to die. Jimmy decides to visit her and he demands that Alison make a choice of whether to go with Helena or with him. Alison picks up her thing and leaves for church and Jimmy collapses on the bed, heartbroken by his wife's decision. The next evening, Alison is packing and talking with her father, Colonel Redfern. The colonel is a soft-spoken man who realizes that he does not quite understand the love that exists between Jimmy and Alison. He admits that the action of him and his wife are partly to blame for the spirit. The colonel was an officer in the British military and served in India and he nostalgic for his time there. He considered his service to be some of the best years of his life. Alison observed that her father is hurt because the present is not the past and that Jimmy is hurt because he feels the present is only the past. Alison begins to pack her toy squirrel, but then she decides not to do so. Helena and Cliff come soon enter the scene. Alison leaves a letter for Jimmy explaining why she has left and she gives it to Cliff. After Alison leaves, Cliff becomes angry and gives the letter to Helena, blaming her for the situation. Jimmy returns, bewildered that he was almost hit by Colonel Redfern cars and that Cliff pretended not to see him when he was walking by on street. He reads Alison later and becomes very angry. Helena tells him that Alison is pregnant, but Jimmy tells her that he does not care. He insults Helena and she slaps him. The passionately kisses him. Then passionately kisses him. Several months pass and the third act opens with Jimmy and Cliff once again reading the Sunday paper while Helena stands in the corner ironing. Jimmy and Cliff still engage in their angry banter and Helena's religious tendencies have taken the brunt of Jimmy's punishment. Jimmy and Cliff perform scenes from musical and comedy. So, but when Helena leaves, Cliff notes that things do not feel the same with her here. Cliff then tells Jimmy that he wants to move out of the apartment. Jimmy takes the news calmly and tells him that he has been a loyal friend and is worth more than any woman. When Helena returned, the three planned to go out. Alison suddenly enters. Alison and Helena talk while Jimmy leaves the room. He begins to loudly play his trumpet. Alison has lost her baby and looks sick. Helena tells Alison that she should be angry with her for what she has done, but Alison is only grieved by the loss of her baby. Helena is driven to distract by Jimmy trumpet playing and demand that he come into the room. When he come back in, he laments the fact that Alison lost the baby but strung it off. Helena then tells Jimmy and Alison that her sense of morality, right and wrong, has diminished and that she knows she must leave. Alison attempts to persuade her to stay, telling her that Jimmy will be alone if she leaves. When Helena leaves, Jimmy attempts once again become angry, but Alison tells him that she has now gone through the emotional and physical suffering that he has always wanted her to feel. He realizes that she has suffered greatly, has become like him, and become softer and more tender towards her. The play ends with Jimmy and Alison embarrassing once again, playing the game of bear and squalor. So friends, till here our summary was end. Now we begin with our character. So sometimes character was also came in exam, so that you have to study both character and summary to understand the poem better. So friends, let's move on to character. Jimmy Potter. Jimmy Potter is the play main character. He is the angry young man who expresses frustration for the lack of feeling in his placid domestic life. Jimmy can be understood as both a hero for his unfiltered expressions of emotion and frustration in a culture that propagates unemotional resignation. He can also be considered a villain for the way in which his anger proved to be destructive to those in his life. Cliff Lewis. Cliff is a friend to both Jimmy and Allison. Cliff lives with them in their attic apartment. He is a working class Welsh man and Jimmy makes sure to often point out that he is common and uneducated. Cliff believes this is the reason that Jimmy kept him as a friend. He is quite fond of Allison and they have a strange physically affectionate relationship throughout the play. Alison Potter. Alison Potter is Jimmy's wife. She comes from Britain upper class but married into Jimmy working class lifestyle. The audience learn in the first act that she is pregnant with Jimmy's child. Jimmy's destructive anger causes her great strain and she eventually leaves him. Her child miscarries and she comes back to Jimmy to show him that she has undergone great suffering. Helena Charles. Helena Charles is Allison's best friend. She lives with them in the apartment while visiting for work. Helena is from an upper class family. She is responsible for getting Allison to leave Jimmy. She and Jimmy then begin an affair. Her sense of morality leads her to leave. She can be considered the play moral compass. Colonel Redfern. Colonel Redfern is Allison's father. He represents Britain's great Edwardian past. He was a military leader in India for many years before returning with his family to England. He is critical of Jimmy and Allison's relationship, but accepts that he is to blame for many of the problems because of his misleading in the affair. So friend, till here our summary was finished, and both summary and character we deal. So hope this video helpful for you, and if you are new to our channel, please make comments, likes, and please subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss the update. Thank you.